Hello and welcome to another episode of the Jungle Gyms podcast. Today is Wednesday, which is kind of out of tradition for us to do a Tuesday TikTok. But anyway, we're still here. And we've got James and we've got another James in the house. So good to see you. And I guess we've just seen the first game of the season for Celtic, so it was great to be back. And so we will get into that. We'll get into the transfer market, the lack of transfer activity. Talking about Martin O'Neill as well, of course, from that unfortunate news that broke today. But first and foremost, James in the Spanish top. That's a really nice top. How are you? What's been happening?
Aye, all good, mate. Just walking away, the usual. Just glad to get back to the real stuff now that the Poxy World Cup's by way. We can get back to the nitty gritty of Rugby Park at the weekend. So I look forward to it.
Exactly. And James, wearing the Celtic top. Is that an Oasis Celtic top or is it Adidas?
Adidas special.
Adidas special. Nice one. My eyes deceived me. How are you, mate? Good to see you.
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you? And that is a nice top, James.
DH Gate special. I'm not going to tell any lies. DH Gate special.
So's this. Not another penny.
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Do you think there is something kind of like magical about the trefoil that whenever Adidas bring out a top that's got that, people just lose their
Aye.
will
special.
to live and they just have to go for it?
It's special. It's I think I had the anniversary Germany kit on in last week's podcast,
Aye.
and just so different. It's just when you see the trefoil, it's different gravy.
Yeah, and obviously we're being tested now with the new Celtic merchandise, which
I know. Don't get back behind me, Satan.
Aye, I know. And welcome to the viewers. We've got Paddy. How you doing, mate? And Sligo boy. Happy birthday to all. Right, okay, so guys, where will we start? First off, I guess that the news about Martin O'Neill. So obviously Celtic released a statement. It was to kind of quell rumours online. I'll be honest, I was working today and I never saw any kind of WhatsApp chat about Martin O'Neill. So I just heard it whenever Celtic kind of broke the story. But it's not really that much of a story in terms of Martin O'Neill's in hospital. He could be in for a couple of days and we have to respect his privacy. So we don't know the nature of it. But predictably in the comments on like X and stuff like that, you're going to see a lot of people who are jumping the gun, and obviously with that built up and pent up frustration of the lack of transfer activity, they're going to blame the board and associate this as a kind of work related illness. We just don't know. We don't know, and obviously we want Martin O'Neill to come back out strong as ever because he's going to have to guide us through this season, much as he did last season. Younger James, so obviously kind of news that nobody expected at all. Unfortunate. We just hope that it kind of it smooths over and he's back out, just as he was before. Nobody expected it though, so we're obviously concerned. But I guess what I'm asking is, should we read more into this? Like, can it just be a passing illness and be back out, or do you think it's a symptom of something else? Like, where are you at with it?
Nah, I'm kind of the same as yourself, mate. I don't think it's fair to kind of speculate on it. As you say, I've seen the comments as well with folk having a go at the board and stress related and everything that kind of comes with it. And obviously his age is a factor as well. And I don't think it's fair to speculate. Like the comment says, it could be anything at all. We really don't know. So it's no fair to speculate until we find out anything else about it. The only thing that does slightly concern me is obviously, firstly, you wish him well and you hope he's absolutely fine, but it doesn't seem like it was a planned procedure because it didn't say that in the statement. I would assume if it was a planned procedure, then it would have maybe obviously mentioned that. That's maybe the only cause for concern. But no, I would, as you say, you've got to respect the privacy. And we'll just find out when the time's right, I suppose, and we'll take it from there. But there's no point speculating. I don't think, and I don't need an excuse to put a boot into the board, but this definitely isn't the time or the place for it, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. And Paddy's on fire with the ingrown toenail puns, not a pedicure more. Older James, need to get a better fucking name for you guys, man. But again, before we actually move on to the football thing, unexpected. Janky, it's a good thing though that Celtic came out quickly to kind of quash any rumours escalating. Do you think that's one piece of communication this season which we can actually appreciate?
So, at the first ever collective meeting, we were told that Nicholson's got a picture on his door that says "must communicate better with fans." Right? He's obviously got his jacket hanging over it, or like a hoodie over the top of it, because he never ever sees it. But I think it's something that had to be communicated really quickly, because these rumours spread, and then before you know it, so yeah, it's good that they go out in front and tell us that he's in hospital. I don't think it's. Hopefully it's nothing to do with football, just purely on a human level. I hope everything's all right. It's nothing serious.
Exactly. I'm just kind of thinking back to last week whenever we did our last podcast. At that point, we kind of finished things off in quite a high, a positive note, because we just brought Casper Hu in the door, and obviously added to the fact that we had Duran in as well. Things were looking really positive, but a further week has passed on since then, and we've brought nobody in the door. The last thing I mentioned, the last thing that I said before we ended it was I wouldn't be surprised if something happens with Alistair Johnson. And the transfer rumours have ramped up. However, it's more the outgoings which have kind of picked up traction rather than the incomings, which have more credibility. And so obviously we knew that Engels would be a target. That's still rumbling on. But the one that we probably, me particularly, would worry more about is Alistair Johnson. I think he's more of the more difficult to replace in the team. And obviously, Everton, I don't know if they just sounded them out. I know that David Moyes had put in a phone call to Martin O'Neill. I don't know if an official bid was made, or they were told that you're kind of off the mark, you would have to improve your bid. But either way, there looks to be concrete interest from Everton anyway for Alistair Johnson. And that's kind of taking the wind out of my sails. Obviously, with the game which we will get into, Celtic 1, Dundee 0, we will get into that. But Alistair Johnson, past couple of days with that rumour, with the news breaking, I'm not happy about that. One, because fullbacks just don't seem to carry the same premium as a central defender or a midfielder, winger, or an attacker. Fullbacks just seem not to carry the same weight and transfer worth as their peers do. I heard 15 million or whatever. We might well get him, but for that, but Johnson, I think, has got 3 years left in his contract. So I wanted to kind of start off the podcast tonight talking about that, about the possibility of him leaving and how difficult it would be to replace him. So, Spanish James, where do you stand in that one?
It definitely be difficult to lose him, especially when you consider you're then looking at Ralston or Donovan for a period, possibly until January, because we know what we're like in signing players, and especially replacements. But I think that's the thing with this, because this is how we should operate. We should go into the summer and probably expecting our best players who have been here for kind of 2 seasons minimum. We should be expecting them to move on down south. That is how the supposed model works.
Mm-hmm.
But it just breaks down when we know that we're going to probably sell them. It'll probably be before the qualifiers, because other teams down south will want them in for the start of the season because they'll be competently run. And then we are going to be running about with our hair in fire again, possibly looking at a loan, possibly asking for a Araujo back on loan, because I don't know if we'll match his wages that we'll be getting at Bournemouth to buy him out permanently. But that's just the issue. It's just the total lack of faith, the lack of trust, the lack of anything really in this board to find an adequate replacement. We had funnily enough, it was under Postecoglou, but it was in relation to Johnson when he was signed when Juranovic was still here.
Yeah.
That's probably the only time we've showed an ounce of forward planning. And it's taken us 18 months to replace Kyogo, and then we've got how long's after the window? 4 weeks, 3 weeks, and you're probably looking at having to replace Engels, Johnson, and then bring in probably 6 at least in Tapia, and it's just not going to happen. So it would, at this point, it would be criminal to lose him, but that's how we operate. That's how it should operate, and we should back ourselves to be able to sort it, but you just don't.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you. James, I'm a massive fan of Alistair Johnson, and I think I I kind of grew in more appreciation for him whenever he came back from his injury. I was actually really happy with Araujo at Celtic. He was a different type of player, but I was really pleased with how he was acquitting himself. Obviously, he got injured, and then eventually Alistair Johnson came back in the time of need, and boy was he good, man. And I think I said that last week that I think he is the best right back that I've seen for Celtic in my lifetime. Others may disagree. Others have longer lifespans than me anyway, so they might have other people to compare to. But the point that James makes with Engels almost kind of halfway out the door, and with Johnson having his suitors, uh, and it looks like Celtic have got until the 13th of August to register the player list for the playoff against our opponents. We're in a precarious moment right now, and we might well sell them. We're good at selling people, but we're not good at replacing them. So, how how much of a shaky peg are we on right now as a club with these people looking as if they're going out, but we just don't know what's going to happen, how quickly we're going to react? How worried are you?
So I'll caveat it by saying I've seen better players than Alistair Johnson leaving Celtic, and we've continued to win things. My caveat to that though is I've got no confidence in this. I've got no confidence in this board. This board make heavy work of everything. Everton are apparently interested in Atletico Madrid's right back, although I think Roma are in for him as well. I think Everton fans would rather have somebody a higher profile than Alistair Johnson, but I think he was the person that made the difference to us last season. When he came back from his injury, just before the split, that was. I remember he came on at half time. Can't remember who it was he was playing. Came on at half time against Celtic Park, and see the difference in Celtic second half to first half when he came on. It was unbelievable. It was just unbelievable. Araujo, I liked Araujo, but he was maybe a wee bit suspect at the back defensively, and he was nowhere near as good going forward as Alistair Johnson.
Yeah.
So we're going to spend 40 grand a week to bring Araujo in. Can we not just offer Alistair Johnson 40 grand a week? I don't know. That's maybe stupid because, as James rightly says, our business model has to be selling. So we should be going into every transfer window. But see, for that to happen, we need a proactive board that's ready and ready to do that and ready to say, right, okay, Alistair Johnson, this is going to be your window to go. So we need to be looking now for a player to replace you. And that's what we should be. But it seems as if everything that happens comes as like an absolute shock to this board. Was it the winger? The rumours, obviously, rumours are not always true, but rumours are that Fiorenese rejected a £10 million bid for this winger, so we put in an £8 million bid. What? Obviously, they might have rejected it because of its structure, £10 million over 4 years, and we've come in and said we'll give you £8 million now. Now, it could be something like that, but what? And it seems as if all our deals are stalling because of 200 grand or 300 grand. What's happening?
I know.
It's not as if we're skint.
It's frustrating. Would you, and just last kind of point with yourself on this, would you like Celtic to retain these two players for the qualifier? Because if you think about last season, we let Kuhn go to Como, and then we went into the qualifier against Kairat without any replacement. So would it be, if we're not nimble enough to sell and replace immediately, would it be better just kind of keeping them until the qualifiers are out the way, then we know our fate, and then we can sell?
No, because Alistair Johnson is maybe a bit different because he seems a lot more honest of a player. But I don't trust that. I don't trust Engels to be putting his leg somewhere if he's got a £30 million deal on the table. Is he? I thought he played okay on Monday night, but see towards the end, I thought is he pulling out of things? because it seemed as if we kind of stopped gelling for the last 10 minutes of the game. And maybe it's just me, I was just blaming everybody because I was obviously nervous.
Engels was certainly getting it. Aye, why don't we get into the game then? So obviously, great to be back at Parkhead, by the way. I was buzzing for it. I got there early, and so 7:30, an unusual kick-off time. But Dundee, to be honest, see Stephen Presley, I don't kind of overlook him. I think he is a half decent manager. I think like he's suited for those types of teams. But you know what you're going to get from him. He's not like a Derek McInnes, where it's or he'll be like ultra defensive. He does like to play football, so I knew that they would give us a game, and I didn't anticipate we'd struggle as much. So Spanish James, the game itself. What was your thoughts? And I guess another thing, what were you expecting with Duran and who playing up front? Duran had done very, very well in the friendlies. Who we knew he was already match fit because he'd played a couple of games already for Bodo. So what were you expecting? Did you have high expectations and your overall thoughts on the game?
To be honest, I think I expected it to be a bit of a struggle. Just having watched this pre-season and kind of knowing that we were going to shift Duran out to the wing when the team sheet came out. I would have liked to see us go 2 up front, but I don't know if we've got the players to go to a 4-4-2 or a 3-5-2 or whatever we would do. But I think moving forward, we do need to go to a 2 up front if the 2 of them are going to play every week, which they should because they look 2 are better players. Well, 2 maybe not so much at this point, but they should be. But no, I thought it was pretty poor, to be honest with you. Probably could have scored a couple more in any other day, but just overall, I thought the play was pretty poor. And to be honest, a lot of that came for Engels, and I've defended Engels. I like Engels, but he was fucking terrible. And Monday, a couple of good passes, that's what I think he brings to the team. That kind of the vision. I think he can play passes that nobody else can. But fuck me, he was trying to play 5-yard passes and giving it away to a guy 2 yards in front of him. It was terrible. I don't know how he lasted the 90 minutes. It was awful. I just hope the West Ham scouts weren't watching that game. But with Ho or who, it's you try your best not to be too harsh because it is only one game. But I thought he was pretty poor, to tell you the truth. I know folks say it's good he's getting these chances, and absolutely it is. But he should have scored at the very least one of them. The first one he kind of snatches at, he's maybe just a wee bit kind of overexcited and that kind of maybe trying too hard sense, and he snatches it wide. The second one should bury. I think it's actually a shot on target. I've not seen any of the highlights, but I think it was a shot on target that he then puts wide by the other post. Yeah. And then the third one and the second off, he's a wee bit unlucky, but you'd probably back him to finish it as well. So he probably should have had at least 2 goals. But as I say, I'm not going to hold it to him. It's his first appearance and kind of everything that comes with that, and the pressure of the price tag and everything else. But the one thing that really did concern me, and it's not necessarily even his fault, and it's something I think a lot of folk have said it, but it's something that we actually done it, in my opinion, with Ademida, and then we also done it with Svinchara last season. Ademida, for me, was a penalty box striker, and by Martin O'Neill's own admission, Thomas Svinchara wasn't a target man. And then by Casper Who's own admission, he's also a penalty box striker. So I don't like this constant kind of dropping back to the halfway line to play with his back to goal and get wee clip balls in for Sinisalo. I don't think I don't think he's doing that naturally. I think that must be a tactic. And don't get me wrong, I think potentially in Europe, I can understand it. But when you're playing at home to Dundee, you've got to back yourself to get up the park and create these chances. It clearly wasn't the guy's strength. I think he won a couple of headers, but he also lost his fair share as well. So that was what kind of sounded my alarm a wee bit. But as I say, that's not necessarily down to the player himself. That's more a day with the kind of tactics and the instructions that he's given. I don't understand why we keep signing these players that aren't the target men to try and play them as target men. And obviously, it's only one game of a sample size. It could potentially change, but it's what we've done with Adamida, and I think it's what we've done with Svinchara as well. So hopefully that will change moving forward.
Well, if you're going to sign someone for £11 million with add-ons, let's not forget, then you do want to be playing to their strengths. Yeah, I think the three chances that he had, like, none of them were on target. So that's a failing of him on its own. Yeah, it's just one-off game. I think he'll do better in the next game, and maybe whenever he does score his first goal, it'll kind of just start raining in at that point. But James, in terms of playing to his strengths, there was times where he did get a flick on, but there was nobody near him. And I don't know if he is used to having somebody much closer to him. He was a wee bit isolated. There were kind of forward runners, but the space between the runners and him were maybe too far apart. And as James said, he doesn't look like a target man. Bit of a frustrating one. And then you wonder, like, you've watched him and then you've seen him in training, and what's your game plan? How do we complement him? So I think it's more probably a failing overall of everyone, the coaching staff as well. But as we said, he did get 3 good chances and they were in the box. So maybe if he was on the plastic and he would have converted it. He did come out with that strange comment about he'll have to get used to grass. What did you make of that?
So I thought my son was sitting beside me is far more critical than me, because the first chance he said, well, you know, an £11 million striker's got to hit the target there. And you know that there's an element of truth in that. You'd expect them to be hitting, maybe no score everyone, but you expect them to be hitting the target. I thought that that was strange. Norway, is there lots of plastic pitches in Norway?
I've heard the majority are. That's what I've heard.
Right, because obviously Kilmarnock's now grass hits. They've got the same hybrid pitch as us, the 1 in 5 hybrid pitch. Apparently they spent £1.5 million on it. So this is going to be the first time they've not even played on it yet. Kilmarnock haven't even played on it yet. It's not getting signed off until Friday or Saturday to be played on. Kilmarnock shareholder, I work with one, and he was proudly telling me that this week that nobody's been allowed to walk on it or anything. I thought McGregor played really well. I thought McGregor had a good game. I thought Engels, to me, it seems as if he's checked out. But it became more, as the game went on, it became more and more visible. Alistair Johnson didn't really seem like that, but I don't know.
Can I say in Engels' defence? Sorry for interrupting.
No,
Engels' effort, in my opinion. I'm not a big fan of Engels, but I thought in terms of effort, he was still running about, try to bust a gut and make options for people. He's got a great engine, and I felt that it wasn't a half-hearted performance. I thought it was just stupid passing. I think it was more of a mental thing rather than a heart thing. I'm not that you guys are suggesting that at all. But like that moment that he ran up the pitch and gathered a loose ball and managed to spin around and play it in for Tierney. Yeah, like the execution was brilliant, but even just busting a gut to get into that position, I think that's what Engels does give you. It's just the quality. Whenever he's given the ball at his feet, you don't know what you're going to get sometimes. He's got the ability to execute really good passing. But sometimes it's 50-50 what you're going to get with him. But I just felt in the game, he was getting a lot of pelters for everybody in the stand. But I felt that effort-wise, I couldn't grumble with what he gave the team.
I think Engels is a Rolls Royce player, right? I think I really rate him. I think that I think the things that you don't see him doing, his movement off the ball and things like that. I think he's maybe we think he's a young boy because he's not that young anymore. He's only about 6 months older than Jude Bellingham, and he's nowhere near that level. But I like Engels. I just thought his head wasn't there on Monday. His head really wasn't there on Monday. That's the best way I can put it. Like I say, I really like Engels. I think Yang was Yang. I think Duran isn't I don't know whether he was given this instruction to stay out in the touchline, but I would be expecting him to be getting into hitting the back post all the time. But it didn't seem a lot of cohesion. And that might come. It was our first actual game, but there didn't seem a lot of cohesion. We need 4 or 5 players, and that's without Alistair Johnson going. I'm counting Engels as away, so 4 or 5 players. But if Alistair Johnson goes, we cannot go into this season with Tony Ralston and Colby Donovan as our 2 right backs. We can't. No, I don't want to. I don't want to.
Fair enough. James, before I ask you the next question, what game's on the TV in the background?
It's Arsenal and Real Betis. I was trying to get one of the qualifiers. I think Fenerbahce were playing Sturm Graz, so I've got my Fenerbahce TV subscription, so I was trying to go into that, but this went on to Premier Sports for some reason. So
fair dues. So one other player I was going to ask you about, and I agree with what James said about Duran. Apart from, there was one moment in the second half where Duran made a fantastic turn. He managed to roll his marker in the box, and he managed to kind of create a half chance. But apart from that, yeah, it was a difficult night for him, but he was played out of position. But James, the question I was going to ask you was about Sinisalo. He brought a fair amount of attention to himself last night with his distribution. What was your thoughts on that?
I thought it was. I was going to say I thought it was pretty poor, but he does make a great save for the header, which essentially gets us the 3 points. But I had question marks. I think I said it on here before. He's got Zaluska syndrome for me, in the sense that I think he'd be a great number 2, but I don't.
James frozen.
James is frozen. James is frozen. So that save was a great save.
It was a good save. I saw from where I was sitting. It looked amazing. I saw the highlights, and it looked a wee bit closer to him than what I had originally thought. So I don't want to take away too much credit, but I kind of have. But James, me and you have had a conversation about goalkeepers. You don't think it's the priority position, which I agree with you. However, we have lost a goalkeeper in Schmeichel, so you need to replace him. So the question is, do you bring in an automatic number 1, someone with gravitas, or do you just bring in somebody who's got potential? I don't know. Where are you with that? And again, it's not maybe priority number 1.
I don't know if can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Because I can hear you for the last wee bit there. We need a goalkeeper, because we're a hamstring away from Duhan being in goals, and that's, can't imagine Duhan in goals and Ralston at right back. That's a absolutely terrifying concept.
Yeah.
I think we need to. So we need a keeper. I know that the cash that we'll have is finite. Therefore, I don't know how we can. I think there's areas need more attention than goalkeeping. The goalkeeper, we need midfielders, we need wingers, we need different players. But if we're going to get a goalkeeper, I would get another number 1 and let Sinisalo and this guy fight it out for the jersey. That I wouldn't waste my time buying another Ross Duhan. I'd be getting somebody that's, and know somebody that's 39. Bring in somebody that's 30, 28, that kind of age that we're going to get a few years out of, rather than somebody at the end of their career.
I saw links today with Nick Pope. I think he's about 34 years old, but from what I know of him, he does have a mistake in him. Who knows? But yeah, I would like to bring in a confident keeper, somebody with a bit of personality. And fuck, it's just me on my own now. That is incredible. Oh well. Well, I guess for the rest of the game, hopefully somebody will rejoin me. But I guess for the rest of the game, one thing that kind of intrigued me was the substitutions. So you've got Oxlade Chamberlain, who we've re-signed Oxlade Chamberlain, and here we've got James back in. Hi, James. I was just going to talk about the substitutions. So we re-signed Oxlade Chamberlain, but for the substitutions, we brought on Luke McCowan in central midfield. I just found that quite curious. Hi, Spanish James. You enjoy your siesta. But anyway, so Luke McCowan on whenever you had Oxlade Chamberlain on the bench. Who is kind of ahead in the pecking order for midfield whenever you take away Cal McGregor and you take away Engels as well? Who's there? Is McCowan the next best player that we've got?
What was the
James?
question?
Nice, we'll get tech issues tonight. So I was talking about the substitutions. We brought on McCowan on the 83rd minute to freshen things up. Oxlade Chamberlain is on the bench. Now, I'm not saying that Chamberlain should be starting, or it should be coming on ahead of McCowan, but McCowan had a bad season last season. Is he still better than Oxlade, in your opinion?
I think Oxlade Chamberlain was a pretty pointless signing for the start, to be honest with you. I wasn't a fan of it. I think he'll be on a decent wage. Obviously, he was coming in as a free agent, just basically who he is. I think he'll command a decent wage. So I wasn't a fan of it. And as you say, the fact that Luke McCowan's getting on ahead of him isn't great. Have I got an echo? Is that me? Can you hear that as well?
I can hear it.
I don't really hear an echo. If it is, it's not disturbing me. I hope it's not. But I agree with Alison there. McCowan is far too easily pushed around. For a midfielder who doesn't have the ability to hold the ball up whenever he's got a defender pushing against him, pressurising him, he should be able to hold the ball up. And I felt that McCowan was, I hate to say it, but a bit of a liability in midfield at times last season. I really, really hate to see that because I was excited whenever he did sign for Celtic. A first good season, second season underwhelming. And then he gets a contract extension as well. I just think that the midfield in general, whenever you take away McGregor, Engels is going out, Bernardo's left the building already. So you've got Oxlade Chamberlain and Oxlade Chamberlain and McCowan. It's not very pretty that.
See, just sorry to jump in, but see this is the thing that kind of irritates me as well with Celtic. Look, when you look at the pre-season games, just because we're talking about the squad in general, the boy was at Hatton that was playing in the wing in the pre-season games, and he looked really, really good. And then he didn't go on the bench last night, and you see some of the names on the bench. Why can we not get him on, maybe get him 20 minutes, half an hour, and it's going to be another one that will get to 22, 23, and he'll still be here and he'll have played a handful of games. And that's what really, really frustrates me. The limited chance that they get, when they perform well, they just get bombed out as soon as the season starts again.
I was also quite intrigued about the McArdle whenever he played for us, not last season, the season before. It had just a handful of moments where I thought he looked quite interesting, and then he went out on loan to Partick Thistle, who were, pushing for to get promotion into the top flight, but he barely got a sniff at Partick Thistle under Mark Wilson, and you're like that. I thought that would have been a good fit for him, but like, where do you go from there? Like, that looked like a good loan placement, and if it doesn't work out, then you're thinking, is his profile not right? Is the mentality not right? There's something. But then again, you're playing against seasoned professionals in that league as well. And saying that, you've obviously got some youngsters as well, but he looked intriguing, and maybe the same fate will befall Hatton. I hope not. I hope not, but it is what it is. Any other talking points for the rest of the game? Older James, Cameron Carter-Vickers, long anticipated return. How do you think the big man done?
I don't think he put a foot wrong, really, but then Dundee didn't really. So they had two chances. They had a header in the first half that went wide, and then they had the header in the second half that Sinisalo saved. Other than that, they didn't really lay a glove on us. So he wasn't put under that much sustained pressure, but it was good to see the big man back. I thought him and Trusty played all right. They didn't give much away. Tierney was all right, but it's obvious we can't get 90 minutes out of Tierney because Alistair Johnson finishes the game at left back. So it's obvious we can't get 90. Obviously, Scales being suspended for the first 2 games. We've got. It was either that or I actually had a feeling that Hitati was going to come on and play left back, and I think if the game had been further ahead, I think that might have been what he'd done. But I don't think O'Neill trusts. He's not got any trust in Hitati, and probably rightly so.
Yeah, I agree. I actually forgot about Hitati when I was going through the midfield roster there for Celtic. James, your good friend Dane Murray, there was a loan bid put in from Dundee and it's been rejected. What's going on there? For me, it's mixed messages because we had a bid in for Arthur for Brentford and that got rejected. So it shows that you're looking, albeit the timeliness of the bid for the Brentford player was weird, like middle of July, near the end of July. Why not do it weeks before then? So if we're looking for a centre-back, I just don't get the strategy. But anyway, Dane Murray, it was the opportunity to let him go without... Everybody could save face, but we held on to him. What was your reaction?
I was delighted. Dundee Celtic shouldn't got his name in the back of my strip and everything. No, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't think he's good enough. I don't think he's ever going to be good enough, to be honest with you. He's another one. He must be, 23, 24 now. He's played a whole 5 games. But we still... I mean, when did he come into the side? Just after COVID, the Michelin game, when Postecoglou had just come in. I'm sure he played that, and that was when him bursting onto the scene. And here we are, 5 years later or so, and we still speak about him like a promising youngster. And you think in that five years or so, he's had a couple of loan spells, but has he ever really showed anything? And that's a few managers now. He must be shit hot in training, because that's a few managers that have rated him. Rodgers kind of liked him as well. Obviously, Postecoglou threw him in a kind of needs must scenario, and obviously Martin O'Neill likes him. And based off Martin O'Neill's comments, I would be surprised if we get another centre half. I think he seems pretty happy to go with the 4 we have, which I'm not a huge fan of, to be honest with you, because I don't think Dane Murray's good enough. Scales currently is your backup left back also, and you're relying on Carter Vickers being able to stay fit. Carter Vickers, when he is fit, is the best defender in the league by a distance, but the struggle is getting him to stay fit. So I would definitely be looking to bring somebody in, but to be honest, I'd be looking to get somebody in to challenge for a first team place, maybe take Trusty's place and play beside Carter Vickers. So that's how when the Benjamin Arthur stuff came out again, I didn't think Benjamin Arthur was great. I thought he was pretty poor, to be honest with you. I thought he was really, really safe. He was a big bit of a boy, but I felt everything kind of just went backwards and he didn't really do much. So I'd definitely be in the market for a centre back.
Same. Gavin's computer's doing a reset just now, so he's no stunned at what you just said. I totally agree. I think that Carter Vickers, if you knew Carter Vickers was going to be available for 45 games this season, then it's not really a panic. But and I think I like to think I'm quite level-headed. I'm not like the Huns that believe that these things need to be done in one transfer window. See, if I had confidence in this board, I would say, right, okay, we can leave getting a better centre half until January. But I've got absolutely no trust or confidence that this board will do these things. We need better than Scales. We should have better than Scales. If we want to push and do things in Europe, and I know Tidsdale believed that we weren't that route, but under Brendan Rodgers, we came very close to doing something against Bayern Munich. we need a wee bit more investment, and that would have happened. So we need quality, and we might not be able to keep all these players for years. But if your board's functioning and doing, they say we've got, this is our model where we buy and sell players. So we need to buy some projects. Yeah, okay, buy some projects, but we need to have confidence and trust that you're going to sell that project and bring in somebody else that's of a quality that we can develop and bring up. And I've got no trust or confidence that the board can do that.
Absolutely, I think that's the problem for me, at least. Anyway, like, we sign guys like Engels and who, obviously they're big kind of transfer fees, and they come into the side and they are your. I'm flying really solo here, but they come in and they are your main men, and we know that what these guys are going to have is quality. But then we're kind of padding out the squad with guys like Luke McKeown, guys like even Oxlade-Chamberlain to an extent. But we're kind of padding these guys out, signing up James Forrest again, guys like Liam Scales kind of hanging about for years, although he's been in and out the first team. But we're kind of just padding out the quality. And when we do that, we done last year and the year prior, and then it comes to this point where you do require a rebuild. The guys that were first team regulars at one point, like your Hitatis, they're now kind of well out of the picture. And you look through the squad, and the squad is littered with guys that you would just really consider squad players. There isn't really anybody there that you can look to the bench, even in aspects of the first team as well, and think he'll make a real difference when he comes on. We've obviously taken steps to improve the forward line, but I just think we need to do it everywhere, to be honest with you. I think it gets to this point in the window and you say we need X amount of players, and then we get to here and we 2-3 weeks left and we all start making concessions. If we get to if we don't get a goalkeeper in, we can get through to January and look to get somebody in. If we don't get a backup right back in, or left back, then we can get through to January. And it's just we start making concessions and we just limp on and we limp on and we limp on, and then eventually it catches up to us and we end up in this kind of mess that we're in now.
Exactly, I couldn't agree more. We limped over the line last year because of the quality that Ange and Brendan had brought in, and it was their quality players. But their quality players, they can't keep going to the well. We need to keep building in our team. You can't just we seem to do this all the time, where we get to a level and then the board just shit it and they don't want to spend any more money. They don't want to, because this is a level and this is our level. Isn't it, man? We should be reaching for much better. Liam Scales, I like Liam Scales, right? I think he's a decent guy. Blah blah blah. I want a better centre back than Liam Scales. I foresee us doing exactly that, James, and limping through to the end of the January window, where I was saying, we got a good January and everything will be all right. We need a complete overhaul.
See, just as it stands now, where would you say is the kind of major surgery required in the squad? If it was only one position, where would you go for? Midfield
and wingers. So maybe midfield and wingers. We need somebody that's, and obviously in the chat, I'm a bit different. I don't think we need a 6'3". I think we need a football player, right? We need somebody that's going to complement Callum McGregor, a football player, somebody that's going to take the heavy lifting off of Callum McGregor. Like you say, Cameron Carter-Vickers on his game is head and shoulders the best defender in the league. See Callum McGregor is head and shoulders the best midfielder in the league, without doubt. And he needs help. He needs a hand in there. I think that McGregor's. So we need two. I think we need two midfielders and we need two wingers, because the bench was shocking on Monday night. You looked at that bench and then you're thinking, what's anybody coming off that bench going to do?
Aye. That's it.
Can you guys
Oh,
hear me?
Aye, we
No,
can hear. We can't see you.
can
We can
hear
hear
you.
you.
I know. I've got a black screen. Look, the tech issues tonight have just been ridiculous. The computer just did a shutdown on me. I came back and the camera's black. So no, I totally agree with you guys. But wingers, absolutely. Like, assuming only Engels leaves, say for example, we still manage to retain AJ for another season, I'd be fairly happy with our defence. It doesn't require massive surgery, but wingers, absolutely. And I'm still not counting Jota in this. For me, Jota's out of the picture. You still need a right winger and a left winger, and then Duran can fight it out with who up front. But you also need a central midfielder, somebody who's going to replace Engels, somebody who's got a bit of craft, a bit of running, and a bit of guile. And I think that's what we're lacking. So that's where I'm at. But at least for centre forward, it looks like we've got competition now with two players. But what did you make of Martin News' comments about might play two up front now? Because how do you do that? I keep hearing people saying, and I'm no tactical genius. I watch football every week, and I've done so for like my entire life. But I'm not a genius when it comes to tactics, and I hear people say it's too easy to play against a 4-4-2 team. Now I know that out of possession you can do 4-4-2 in terms of pressing, but in possession, do you look silly? Are you kind of easy to play against if you are a 4-4-2 team in possession? That's what worries me.
It's 4-4-2 is very easy to play against in transition, and that's why like none of the top teams in Europe play a 4-4-2 because it's very easy. It's very easy to break that in transition. We need to. It would need to even at a 3-5-2, but we've not got the players for that. We've not got. I think you're right, Gavin. I totally agree. If Alistair Johnson stays, I think we're a backup left back away from being acceptable at the back, right? Midfield needs work. Wingers unbelievably need work. Strikers, okay, we're not too bad in that position. But see, that's 4 or 5. That's 4 or 5 starters we're looking at. It's not 4 or 5 squad players. That's 4 or 5 starters we're looking at. And it's took us how long? 2 months to get 2 in. How are we going to get 5 in?
I think the 2 up front is something that I'd like to see, but whether it's 4-4-2 or 3-5-2 or basically any formation that will allow us to play 2 strikers, I don't think we've got the players to play it. The only way I could see it possibly happening with the squad that we've got now is if we played very, very narrow and maybe had like Nygren sitting in behind the two up front, and then you had like McGregor and like the Engels now sitting in behind them, but I just don't see us doing that because it would be far too narrow. I wouldn't be against going to a 4-4-2 to be honest with you, but when you play a 4-4-2, I think that's when you would lose Nygren at the number 10 because I wouldn't trust him to be one of the central midfielders. So you'd probably need to put him back out wide, which funnily enough in a 4-4-2 might suit him a bit more because when you play that formation, you don't necessarily have out and out wingers. You need them to kind of go both ways, really. I think that potentially might suit him and he'd be kind of coming inside as well. But I think the plan for the long term will be to go for 2 up front, but the new I don't see us changing unless we go to a really, really narrow formation, which wouldn't be.
It wouldn't work in Scotland. It wouldn't work in Scotland because of the low block. Because see, if we went narrow like that, and then every team just played narrow against us, all of a sudden you would have 20 players in the last third of the pitch inside the lines of the 18-yard box. It would be murder to try and break down. I think that's and McGinty's just said 4-3-1-2. I think that's kind of what we play. Because Grin plays like. He plays right behind the striker. He doesn't. I say that again. I said it on Monday night. He done nothing in Monday except score a goal.
Yeah,
that's all he does.
See, I actually thought I was going to actually say that when we were talking about the game earlier. I actually thought that was one of his better games, in the sense that I always say, like you've just said there, I only notice Negrin when he scores, but I actually thought he was quite good. I thought he was playing some nice passes through. I thought he linked up well with who. And I actually thought at the game, I was like, who was that? And I was like, that was Negrin. I'm like, that's probably the only time it was a goal that I've ever said that. And it was a couple of times. I actually thought he was pretty good. I thought he was one of the, for me personally, he was one of the standouts. I thought him, McGregor, and Alistair Johnson, I thought they three were really, really good.
And fair play to him, because he said it himself that it's one of the shortest pre-seasons that he's ever had. Obviously, they get into the knockout phase for Sweden, and then he's right back playing for Celtic in the first competitive game. So fair play to him. And I was kind of wondering what type of season are we going to get out of Nygren. I was thinking, can he repeat the same kind of feats of last season? But he's off in the mark already with that goal. So it's looking good for him. But again, is it the same problem that he's going to present us with? He'll get you goals, but he can be a bit of a liability whenever you don't have the ball. So that maybe needs to be addressed. I don't know if he's going to add something to his game. Yeah, he's still relatively young, but we'll see. And I don't know what we've almost kind of forgotten about any attention that he might get from other clubs. He said that he's quite an ambitious guy. I wouldn't be surprised if he wanted to go away if an offer came in, but at the moment I've not heard a peep from anyone about that at all. So do you think it's kind of safe to assume that we will have him for the full season?
I think he'll be here this season. I think if he repeats it, if he's a similar season to last season, then he'll be the next one to go for big money probably next summer. I could definitely see that happening, but I think he'll be here this season.
Fair enough. Guys, I kind of change from of direction here. We're almost at the hour mark anyway, so I don't think we'll be on for too long. And obviously, it's kind of difficult talking to a black screen here, which is myself. But Scott Brown was on the Open Goal podcast, and there was a few clips getting bandied about, and one of them was he was talking about his time at Celtic whenever he was a player under the Tony Mowbray era. So, admittedly, I don't know the full context of it, but I think he was asked about what was it like playing for Celtic at that time, and we'd probably admit that it was one of the weakest sides that we've seen Celtic in our lifetime, at least the turn of the century anyway. And he said that he got on fine with Tony. So James, you can contradict me if this is out of context, because you might have seen the full episode. But he said he got on absolutely fine with Tony Mowbray. But he said that Peter Grant, he found it difficult to work with him. He had no personality, and he said he had no time for Peter Grant. So again, James, if you've got any supporting context, that would be useful. But my immediate takeaway was I don't know the context of this. So I'm going to know, kind of jump the gun here, but I just feel from a former Celtic captain, even if you feel like that, you'd be the bigger man not to say something like that. Keep it off record. If you want to tell the boys, tell them off record, but don't do it live in a podcast. I just felt that that's a wee bit out of character for a Celtic captain, not the type of standards that I like to see. What was your thoughts on that?
Just sorry to jump in, James, but it was kind of shoehorned in at the end, because as I says to you, after you sent that wee clip, I was just about to put it on anyway, and it was kind of shoehorned in at the end. It was the last kind of 5-10 minutes. They kind of, I think it was on for 2.5 hours. It was on for ages, and they kind of briefly touched on his career, and then went into the games at the weekend and stuff, and then it was just kind of basically a couple of closing questions, and he threw that in. If I'm being totally honest with you, I don't think Scott Brown came off too well for watching the podcast. Even out with the comments, he kept fucking using the word banter and all, which pisses me off. You're not university, Scott. Great banter. So that kind of pissed me off. But I don't think he came off too well. And as I said in the group chat earlier, I think Scott Brown's a legend, and everything that he won and everything that he done, and the Brownie and everything that comes with Scott Brown was brilliant for Celtic. But I'm of the opinion, look, Peter Grant, when did Peter Grant leave Celtic? 97, 98? So Peter Grant as a player is probably just a wee bit before my time. I was only kind of away when he was playing for Celtic. So in terms of that aspect, obviously you will know more about it than me. But I'm of the opinion that Peter Grant has probably forgot more about Celtic than Scott Brown will ever know. And that's no disrespect to Scott Brown, but like Peter Grant is kind of dyed in the wool Tim. And I was a bit taken aback by the comments, but also the fact that Peter Grant, as far as I'm aware, is constantly on Celtic TV. So he is a kind of, albeit at a kind of arm's length, he is an employee of the club of some context. And I'd imagine Scott Brown was also asked about the summer. One of them had said basically there was rumours about you getting into Celtic as a coach. Was there anything in it? And he didn't say aye and he didn't say no. He just kind of brushed over it and then started speaking about the future. And I'm like, he's obviously keeping his options open. But what I was going to say was Scott Brown, in my opinion, I think he's on maybe a sugary peg's a wee bit too strong, but I just think with some of the things that he said, obviously a few years ago it was the statue for Lawwell shout, which was mental, and then even just a couple of months ago there it was, what was it, the vultures, aye, and you can't go out and sign a 20. Aye, exactly, and I would maybe just rein it in a wee bit, and maybe kind of try and get people back inside, but I think he's playing up to the gallery, and don't get me wrong, I don't know what Slaughter and Peter Grant achieves, but I just get the impression that he'll maybe see a wee in. He'll look at Sean Maloney as maybe somebody that couldn't quite crack it in management. He's probably in a similar position, and on paper, Scott Brown probably would be an ideal kind of assistant manager or first team coach, as that kind of go between the manager. And I just wonder if he maybe senses a wee opportunity coming up. Obviously, Martin O'Neill is essentially a glorified interim, albeit he's here on a permanent deal. It's a short deal. So I just wonder if he sees maybe a wee kind of coaching gig coming up in the not too distant future.
Aye. James, I want to get your comments on it as well. It just seemed a bit odd. So obviously Scott Brown is full of personality, nobody can deny that. But to come out and criticise someone like that, it just seemed like he was. What was that phrase? It's like not kicking someone when they're down, but it wasn't like, I don't know. It wasn't. He was aiming down at someone. It almost felt like, what's Peter Grant really done to you? Maybe professionally they never got on. Fair enough, but you wouldn't hear Paul McStay come out and say something like that.
No, and you're right. It was 97. Peter Grant left and went to Norwich, I believe, from memory. 97. I was at a Players of the Year dance years ago, and he was there with McAvenny, and somebody asked him what it was like. I was very young, and he said, I've got the best job in the world because I drive along London Road every day and see Celtic Park. He basically was one of us that
it's a taxi driver.
Aye, just put on the jersey. I love Bruni. He is a legend. You shouldn't have said that, but Peter Grant. You shouldn't have said that, but Peter Grant. James is right. He's said a few things recently that have been, and he's obviously got to be keeping himself out there and keeping himself relevant. I'd heard he was a shoe-in to get a Celtic job. I think he probably would have if Robbie Keane had come in. I think he probably would have been on the coaching staff. That's obviously not happened. I think that Peter Grant was a limited football player, but he was a Celtic great, Peter Grant. I'm not saying he made Paul McStay a better player, but him being beside Paul McStay in the midfield allowed Paul McStay to express himself in the middle of the park, because he didn't need to do any of the dirty work. Grant done that, and he was under no illusion of what he was. He never thought he was Paul McStay or John Collins. He knew he was what he was there for. Aye, poor show, I think.
Have you seen the podcast, or was it just that wee clip that Gav had sent?
Hello. Can you hear me?
We can hear it. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Aye.
Aye. Did you? Oh, James's turn for the issues.
Having a shocker, man.
Did you? You said you've not seen the podcast, Gav. It was just that wee
No,
clip.
that's right. That's right.
Because there was a couple of times in it. Obviously, as I say, they kind of brush over his career, and then it goes on to like the Fitba and just kind of basically talking about us, about Celtic's recruitment and stuff like that. And even at that was when I was like, you see an opportunity here, and like James says, like, I wouldn't be surprised if in 12 months or 2 years Robbie Keane is the Celtic manager after his stint in the Premier League, where I'll make into a tenner. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in charge at some point, as I say, in the not too distant future, and Scott Brown comes in, because when they were speaking about recruitment, again, it was very much the kind of party line that was told about how difficult deals are to get done and everything else. And it's so transparent what you're doing. It's almost to the point it's embarrassing. Like, nobody can believe this. You've literally just sat and you spoke about Hearts that have signed about 48 new players. You spoke about Rangers who can't be too far behind. Dundee that's just signed a new squad and came and gave us a hard game last night. Every club in Scotland has done it, and then they went on to talk about how it's a one in, one out policy at Celtic. And I'm like, where is this narrative came from that it's a one in, one out policy? Have we lost some? Is it 15 players?
14 players now.
Is that including Bernardo? Aye.
No, it wasn't including Bernardo, so it will be 15 now.
Aye.
So it was 14 before Bernardo.
So and we've brought in, if you're giving them the benefit of the doubt to include Oxlade-Chamberlain, we've brought in 3. So it's 3 in and 15 out. And I'm like, so where is this one in, one out idea coming from? Is it because we're talking about getting a replacement for Engels or getting a replacement for Johnson? I'm like, we just forget everything that's went before. And Martin O'Neill kind of had to laugh at that as well when he was asked about the Alistair Johnson situation, but obviously with the move to Everton. And he said, yeah, I think it'd be good for, obviously, the clubs down south. They'll be wanting to get their squads in and settled for the season starting. And I'm like, you're talking about this after our first game of the season, where we've played our new striker on the wing. We've had to put our best right back to left back to bring on the guy that really is our third choice right back to play centre mid. To play right back. And it's just, I'm like, is anybody else listening to this? Is there just that much a lack of self-awareness at Celtic that we see these things? But obviously there must be. But if you haven't seen the Scott Brown podcast, I would get a wee kind of skim through. But in my opinion, it doesn't come off too great in it.
I'm going to check it out. Another thing, I think we're probably best wrapping up tonight before we get any more technical difficulties. It's becoming, I don't know what's happened to my computer, man. I think it's going to take off. So I'm sorry if I'm maybe stopping you in full flow, but it's good to be back. Good to be back after the first game of the season. It's good to talk about the lack of progress in the transfer market for Celtic. Hopefully next week we'll have a wee bit. By God, we better have some new faces by next week. Hopefully, by the time
new computers, never mind new faces.
Aye. Hopefully, by the time that Martin O'Neill is back at the hospital, the board will have done him a favour and brought in a couple of new players. That's the least that they can do for the man. Right. Anyway, guys, James, it's been brilliant. Thank you for bearing with me for my technical issues. We'll be back next week. All right. Any final comments? Any parting comments before we head off? No.
No, I'm
I'd
cool.
say some, but probably crash and get kicked out or something.
Yes, indeed. Right, okay, we'll end the stream now. Everybody in the comments, thank you so much for tuning in, and apologies for the technical issues. Thank you again. Okay, we'll be back next week. Hail, bye bye.
Hail.